The youth want to talk to the trusted adults in their lives about the issues that they face. I realized this several years ago when I taught the 15-year-old Sunday school class. The group of kids that I taught were very respectful, and they participated when I asked them questions and when I asked them to read the scriptures, but I couldn't get them to be engaged and excited about the lesson. There was one lesson that I taught that they were very engaged in, and they were very excited about discussing it. And ironically, the lesson was on the law of chastity. I began the lesson by telling them about the law of chastity, what it was and why they needed to follow it. And basically, it was a lecture to the kids, like we usually give. And they were all sitting there staring at the floor, shuffling their feet nervously. But then I switched to the mode where I was making it a discussion. And I asked the kids, since they all know what they're not supposed to do, I asked them the question that was what they would really like to know. What is appropriate and what is okay? And so I turned it over to them and I asked them what they thought. And the kids were all very engaged in this conversation because this is something that they would like to know. And from this, I learned that the youth want to talk about issues, even if they're awkward, but they don't want to have a lecture. They want to be able to openly discuss the things that they're concerned about and to understand the issues. And there are many issues that are facing our youth today that are confusing and that are challenging and difficult for them. One of these issues is, what is the big deal about pornography? The big deal about pornography is the damaging effects of pornography. It damages the brain, it damages the family, and it damages society. Pornography damages the brain because it is very much like a drug. The same chemical reactions take place in the brain as when using meth or cocaine. There's excessive amounts of dopamine that are released in the brain. And the difference is that with viewing pornography, these levels are much higher, and it's like a chemical bomb going off in the brain. And studies have shown that the teen's brain reward pathway has a response that is 2 to 4 times greater than that in the adult brain, which makes their brains being flooded with much more dopamine. Just as with cocaine and meth, pornography is addicting. Dopamine, when it is flooded in the brain at such high levels, that is not a normal state for the brain to be in, and it's not healthy. And so the brain will respond by shrinking the dopamine receptors, and in turn, the individual will need to have more dopamine released to be able to feel normal. And so they will begin to crave more and more pornography. Elder Dallin H. Oaks said, "It impairs decision-making capabilities. It hooks its user, drawing them back obsessively for more and more. A man who had been addicted to pornography and to hard drugs wrote me this comparison. In my eyes, cocaine doesn't hold a candle to this. I have done both. Quitting even the hardest drugs was nothing compared to trying to quit pornography." Pornography changes the brain. It physically changes the brain. Viewing pornography rewires the neural pathways of the brain, making new connections. Or in more layman terms, as stated on the fightthenewdrug.org website, neurons that fire together wire together. Studies show also that addiction causes the frontal lobes of the brain to shrink. Pornography is damaging to the family. Viewing pornography affects the ability of the individual to form meaningful relationships. M.A. Layden, in a paper entitled Pornography and Violence, stated, "Healthy relationships are built on equality, honesty, respect, and love. But in porn, it's the reverse. Interactions are based on domination, disrespect, abuse, violence, and detachment." Viewing pornography results in a loss of the spirit. Elder Dallin H. Oaks said, "When we worthily partake of the sacrament, we are promised we will always have his spirit to be with us. To qualify for that promise, we covenant that we will always remember him. Those who seek out and use pornography for sexual stimulation are obviously violating that covenant. They also violate a sacred covenant to refrain from unholy and impure practices. They cannot have the spirit to be with them." I personally know the damaging effects of pornography on families. My sister married a really sharp return missionary in the temple, and they had 4 beautiful daughters, and they were the cutest little family. He was the best dad, and everything with him was awesome, and everything was an adventure. Even going to the grocery store was an adventure, and they had so much fun together. But then he started using pornography, and it totally changed his personality. He became very abusive to my sister to the point that she finally left the marriage and got divorced from him. And after she left, her two older daughters told her that their father had been sexually abusing them and that he had threatened to kill their mother if they had told. And these girls are all grown now. It's been 12 years since she divorced him, but they still have the damaging effects emotionally and physically from, as far as health issues, from the abuse that went on in their home from their father's pornography addiction. And after they left the home, they were never allowed to see him ever again. So it was a very sad situation. Pornography damages society. Viewing pornography leads to objectifying women and promotes violence against women. It leads women to believe that violence in relationships is normal and even healthy. One of the side effects of viewing pornography is lower material success, and another is a change in beliefs. Both of these are things that damage society. Now that you know the damaging effects of pornography and how it damages the brain, the family, and society, it's time for you to get involved and get educated and talk to your children. 80% of first exposures are in the home between the ages of 4 and 11. Pornography thrives in secrecy. It cannot exist when openly talked about. Good resources to find out things, more information so that you can talk to your children about pornography, are the church's website, overcomingpornography.org, and the manual A Parent's Guide. Also, the website fightthenewdrug.org has many, many resources for you to check into. There are articles and journals and websites that they have taken information from, and you can find those in the resource section and go to those to get further information. And they also have a lot of information on how it damages the family in all of these different areas. If you are addicted to pornography, you need to get help. You can't do this alone. The only way you can overcome pornography is through repentance and the atonement. How long does it take to overcome an addiction? It takes 2 years. We all need to get involved and tell others about the damaging effects of pornography.